still doing? It has 2 nuts. Oh, hi. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's a squirrel. He's got a little acorn. Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of Monday Coffee with the Doll. I am your hostess with the mostest, and if by mostest you mean Java, that's probably me. We are back with another episode. I definitely keep getting put through the ringer every time I find a good groove and I start getting consistent with my videos and my schedule. It's like somebody wants to ruin everything for me. And that kind of got me thinking that that's true. There are people out there that want to ruin everything for me, and those are really toxic relationships that I have been removing from my life but seem to not want to leave. You know, that's kind of the thing about abusive and toxic people, is that they never want to allow you to rid yourself from them. And when you like really start to get strong enough to be like, no, I don't deserve this, you need to move along, that's when they decide that they just need to start coming at you with the worst possible things ever. So I thought that that would be a good topic this week. So we're going to be talking about toxic relationships, removing them from your life, and not feeling bad for it, because sometimes the toxic relationships in your life are people who you should naturally be able to trust and you shouldn't have to worry about. But those can also be the absolute worst ones in your life. So I definitely can say that I've had more than my fair share of toxic relationships. And for the most part, most of them have been pretty easy to get rid of. You know, because I controlled those relationships. I got to decide, you know, if they were people that I wanted in my life, and if they didn't treat me the way that I had set my worth in being treated, then they didn't cut it. That means they had to go. They had to move on with their lives. And I'm the type of person that I don't want like a big mess. I'm not gonna burn any bridges. I'm just gonna let you know that you don't hold any value in my life because of how you treat me or how you disrespect me. And then that's it. Like, go on and do your thing. I don't want anything to do with it or anything that you're going to be doing in your life because I don't agree with it or it brings negativity into my life. So I just remove myself. You know, I don't project how I feel others should be treated onto other people. I say how I think people should be treated. I talk about how I treat people. I talk about how I feel people should be treated. But like, if you're not going to get on board with that, I'm not going to waste my time trying to get you to change your entire mindset, because unfortunately there's just people out there that are wastes of time. You can't get through to them what's right and what's wrong because they're wired a certain way. And I think that it's always good for you to try. I think it's always great to try to be a voice, to kind of shed some positive perspective onto things for other people, because sadly there's just a lot of people out there in the world who don't grasp that concept, because their entire makeup of who they are and everything that they do every single day is striving on hurting other people or taking advantage of other people or manipulating situations to get what they need out of other people. So there is no shedding that perspective. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've already made up their mind that that's how they see things, that's how they feel about things, and that's how they're going to treat people. So a lot of it is just you trying to pour all of yourself into these people, and ultimately you just kind of get drained entirely, and then there's nothing left. People like that will take advantage of anything you want to say to them, anything you want to do for them, and then they'll just keep abusing you because they get something out of it. And I think it's a huge mental disorder, and I don't mean mental disorder like anxiety or depression. I think people who are toxic, people who are narcissists, people who are sociopaths, I think all of that is a mental state that something that's happened to them leads them to that place. And mean, not all of us are suited to, you know, fix people like that or help people like that. People like that, you know, they just need, they need real serious, like, professional help. Now, I've had a lot of different types of toxic relationships in my life. Like, I've had toxic friends, I've had toxic relationship. I've had one toxic relationship because I've only been in 2 relationships my whole life. My past, and then the one that I'm in now. And the one that I'm in now is literally everything that a relationship should be, or what it should be for me. But I had to get away from the things that hurt my mental health, that helped me see, I guess, that worth that I deserved. And toxic relationships, like I said, they come in different forms. You can have toxic friendships, you can have toxic boyfriends and girlfriends, you can have toxic husbands and wives, you can have toxic family members, and it can be really hard to move away from things like that. I know for me, for instance, I was in a toxic marriage, and that entire relationship was toxic. From, you know, the very beginning to the very end, it was different stages of abuse and just toxic environment altogether, between, you know, mentally toxic and emotionally toxic. It was toxic for my future, it was toxic for my well-being, it became toxic for my kids. And as it escalated and as it got worse, and the more that I saw it, I had to really get to a point mentally where I could acknowledge that it was toxic, it was unhealthy, and it was bad for me. And I think a lot of us make a lot of excuses. You know, you get into relationships with people and you build this entire life. You build schedules, you build daily routines, you build, you know, these commitments and relationships. And it can be really hard to get out of them when they turn toxic, because you feel like you have so many things tied into it that it's way scarier sometimes to break that relationship. And really, all that is a lie. It's a lie that we tell ourselves because we're fearful. We're fearful of so many different things. Like for me, for instance, I was fearful because I was in a marriage that was abusive way before I got married. And once you get in that far, and now I have 2 kids, you know, I have all these years, you know, 8 years of my life dedicated to this and building this and getting people, you know, in my family to be positive about it, or friends to be positive about it. But when I really started reflecting on it as a whole, there was no positive. You know, that relationship removed me from having any friends. You know, that was taken away from me entirely. It removed me from having a future because I wasn't allowed that. It was so controlled and so negative. There wasn't anything that I would be losing. But what I was losing was happiness. I was losing my own will, my own self-worth, my confidence. I was losing a future that I could do anything. You know, all of that was being taken away from me. For my kids, they were not getting to see what a healthy relationship was, what a loving relationship was. They weren't getting to see what it means to be a good father and a good husband and a good teammate. They weren't getting to see me as the best mom that I could be. You know, there were so many negative aspects coming from this toxic relationship. It took a while to be able to see that there was no good. There was a lot of me making excuses. There was a lot of me trying to make it look good, but there was no good. You know, when you're lying to your friends, you're lying to your family, you're lying to yourself, and you spend all this time worrying and trying to create this illusion of healthy, that's when you know it's really toxic. And it wasn't that people didn't tell me that I was in an abusive relationship or I wasn't in a toxic relationship, because I did have people. I had a lot of girlfriends that came in to my life that were then removed by that toxic relationship because They couldn't handle watching me be put through what I was being put through, or they couldn't handle, you know, as soon as I became friends with them, getting texts and messages from my significant other hitting on them, or trying to get them to do things that they knew were wrong. And, you know, people can only be put through that stuff so long, and they can only watch it for so long. And some of them said things to me, and I would just ignore it because I was scared of accepting that that's what was going on, because then I had to make changes. And I had spent so many years being told that this was it for me. Like, this is where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be a housewife and a mom, and you're just supposed to deal with it, and you're supposed to keep it together for your family, and there's nothing else out there for you. You know, I had been taken away from so much for so long and controlled in so many aspects. The idea of being free, I think, was something that scared me even more than the reality of my relationship at that point, and the fact that it was ultimately so toxic. And I had to come to the realization of that. I had to realize that this was it. I had to realize that there wasn't anything else I could do. There was nothing for me to fix anymore. There was nothing I could make excuses to hide anymore, because it wasn't my behavior. You know, it was somebody else's behavior. It was somebody else acting that way and treating me that way and destroying our lives. And it wasn't on me anymore. And when I kind of came to that realization that, you know, this is it. You've done everything you can do. You've said everything you can say. You've tried to fix things. You've changed everything about yourself to make that person happy. You know, you sacrifice your entire being, and there still is no happy ending. There still is no positive, you know, future on the horizon. This is toxic. You're being manipulated, you're being abused, you're being broke down, you're being controlled. And it's not because somebody loves you so much that they treat you that way. It's because they're a broken person. That's the reality of it. They're a broken person that can't grasp or understand that they are the ones destroying the relationship, because usually people who are really, really toxic project that onto you. You're the problem. You're the reason why we don't work. You need to change. You need to do better. And after so long of having that like just shoved down your throat in the environment that you're in already, you do start to feel like there's nothing else you can do. You've done everything, you've tried everything, this is it for you. You don't get happiness, you don't get a happily ever after, you don't get all of the things that you know deep down inside you're supposed to get and that you deserve. All of a sudden, you just kind of accept that that's not for you. Well, maybe happiness isn't for me. Maybe I don't deserve somebody who loves me and treats me that way. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe, you know, I am the problem. And that really is just a tactic that abusers and toxic people plant in your brain, because once they plant it, then they can do whatever they want with you. And granted, I was already a pretty weak-minded person. I was really weak-minded. I was the person in my family who was the doormat. Whatever somebody wanted me to do, I did. If somebody needed me for something, I was there. If somebody wanted to use me or what I could do for something, I was there. You know, I was the excuse for people making mistakes. I was the person that you have to be like her. If you're not like her, you're not good enough. So then that was a ton of pressure on my shoulders. There was just so much already there that people that are toxic, they see that. You know, they're a lot like, you know, they prey on people like me. And who I was at the time was a vulnerable, young, naive person who was used to having their family control everything about them and everything that they did. So when this person came into my life and saw that they could manipulate that and use that, they didn't hesitate. They didn't hesitate at all. But the thing that a lot of, you know, people who are the toxic entity in relationships don't count on They don't count on you to get stronger. They don't count on you to change and grow. And fortunately for me, that's what I did. I kept growing, I kept evolving, and the more that I grew and the more that I evolved, the more problems it put into my relationship. Why? Well, because I was challenging that person. That person realized that I could get to a point that they could no longer control and manipulate and abuse, so that scares them and they lash out and they start abusing you even harder. And those are the kind of times where, you know, I think a lot of us get to where we're like, I just don't know what to do. We start questioning our relationship, our lives, our future, what we're supposed to be doing. And those are the pivotal moments where we really have to reflect. And I went through a lot of those moments. I went through a lot of this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I wasn't ever supposed to be here. I was supposed to have better than this. I was supposed to do more than this. But the downfall is that those people are really good at manipulation. And when they see you starting to break through that, that's when all of a sudden they put their facade back on. All of a sudden, maybe they're actually listening to what you're saying to them, or they're treating you way better than usual, or they're doing all the things that you've asked them to do, but they usually tell you is your fault, because they have to secure that. They have to secure all of the time that they've invested in breaking you down, because you're starting to get away. And they can't allow that, because you are that source for them. They use you for something. They take from you. They gain things from you. And if you can figure that out and break out of that, well, then they're in trouble. They just lost somebody that they use to better themselves while not ever giving anything back. And that destroys you as a person. People who just use and use and use and take from you, and they don't rebuild, they don't give you anything back, then you're just an empty shell of a person. And that's what I became. You know, everything that I was sucked from me. And nothing was ever given back, because it wasn't a fair relationship. It wasn't a healthy relationship. It wasn't balanced. There was no exchange of energy and exchange of love and, you know, support. It was just me being drained of anything and everything that I could give, and then just used to hurt me. You know, I was cheated on, I was bashed, I was mentally abused, I was verbally abused. You know, there were so many things that any time I tried to stand up for myself, they were used against me, and I just became more and more fearful. And if you fall into that hole, it's really, really hard to get out of it. Really hard. And you don't expect people to do that to you. You don't expect people who you love and you put all of your time and effort in, you don't expect them to hurt you like that. You don't. And it's really unfair and it sucks. But one thing that I know for sure is that just because you love them, and just because we're told that those are the relationships that we have to keep working on no matter what, does not mean that we just have to put up with it and stay in them forever and allow these people to treat us like total doormats and total dirt. Have you guys got a mug yet? They're really good. This mug makes coffee taste like magic. You don't believe me? You're just gonna have to get one to try. You can check these out on my friend Forever Above Me's website. You can get a doll mug of your very own, and you can start your Monday with a mug full of sparkle. Yes, you can. And you can also spend some time on their Facebook page and their Instagram and really get a lot of inspiration to drive you towards your dreams, because that's really why I love the brand. Forever Above Me is a brand that inspires people to inspire themselves. So if you want one of these, there's a link below. Get you some. You know, I'm learning that there's roles in our lives that we fill. You know, all of us need these specific roles in our lives filled. And normally there are people that we're supposed to put in those roles, you know, moms and dads and brothers and sisters and husbands and boyfriends and best friends. And you fill all of those slots, and those are supposed to be the people that when you really need something, those are the ones that are there for you. Those are the ones that support you. When honestly, those roles don't matter at all. Those roles can be so toxic and so damaging to you, and you allow it because your brain is kind of set up to make excuses for it. Well, this is my mom. Like, I have to deal with it because it's my mom. If I say something, or if I stand up to myself and go against what my mom wants, she's not going to love me anymore. She's going to be mad at me. She's not going to talk to me. Unfortunately, sometimes that role has to be sacrificed for your own health and well-being. Because just because somebody holds a title or a role in your life doesn't mean they're allowed to abuse you or treat you absolutely horrible because of their own problems or their own mental health or their own warped way of thinking. And I think that, I know for people like me, having to remove toxic roles like that in my life has been really hard. It's been really hard because it's almost like you remove a piece of yourself that you then have to fix. And it can be really hard fixing those places that, you know, you've put other people in for so long. And it can make you feel really lost for a long time. It can make you feel like you are missing a piece of yourself that you can't put back, in a sense. It's, I don't know, I've come to this horrible crossroads in my life. I've come to this horrible crossroads in my life where I'm learning, and in a very hard way, that just because people are supposed to be something for you doesn't mean that they're going to be. And you can try and you can try and you can try to keep giving them the benefit of the doubt and keep giving them the opportunity to have that place in your life. But you don't deserve to, no, they don't deserve to have that place if they're going to be so toxic for you that it literally starts destroying you as a person. Do you know what I mean? Like, for instance, I have tried my entire life to be friends with my big sister. And before I moved to Texas, I told her that I was sorry if she ever felt like I wasn't a good sister to her or I was not there for her. You know, I'm sorry that if I just sided with our parents who have a really warped way of thinking and handling things, and I apologized because I don't understand why she hates me, and I don't understand why our entire life she's blamed me for everything negative. And before I moved to Texas, I feel like I was at a place in my life where I was bold and I was brave and I was being super just blunt about everything and how I dealt with things and how I processed things. And I really felt like I would be able to help her. You know, I felt like all of her issues with self-confidence and self-worth and all of the things that she struggles with, I wanted to help her with them. Like, that's what I do. Like, I wanted to tell her, hey, I love you. Let's be awesome girls together. Let's support each other and love each other. And I apologized. And I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have apologized. Because I've never done anything. I've never done one thing but want a big sister that I'm never gonna have from her, because it's not me. I'm not the toxic one. And it's a hard realization. It's a hard realization that people who are supposed to love you and support you can hurt you the most so blatantly for no reason other than to somehow try and make themselves feel better in their own misery. And it can be hard to cut those types out of your life because there's this part of your brain that says, no, 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 you can't do that. That's not allowed. You know, this is a family member. This is somebody who's supposed to matter forever. But those are the roles that are supposed to be taken most importantly. And if those people don't take that role important, then you no longer have to feel guilty for cutting them out if they are poison to your soul. I hope that makes sense. This got emotional. I guess I'm gonna say in closing that we all get caught up in relationships where we have this inner fight where we know what we need and we know what's best for us and we know what's healthy for us, and then we have that thing that was put in us that automatically makes excuses and defends those people. But what we have to start focusing on is that was put there by the people who are harming us. And so why would you allow it? You know what I mean? Why would you allow the person that's harming you the most to stay? For what? Because of a title? Because they're supposed to be something? Yeah, they're supposed to be something. But if they can't live up to that, you aren't supposed to suffer. You aren't supposed to have to live in nothing but heartache and grief because that's how they choose to treat you. Like, you can only take so much before you finally have to say, no, I don't deserve this. And it doesn't matter what role that you play in my life. I get to take that away from you if you abuse me. If you choose to be toxic, then I'm gonna use my antidote on you. I'm gonna use some glitter. I'm gonna sprinkle it and I'm gonna bury you under it. And if you can't get with the program, then bye. Okay, so I want to thank our sponsors, Forever Above Me. You guys can get some really awesome merch from them as well as some really cool things to inspire you in your life. Also, this week's Monday Coffee Kisser was brought to you by Ink of Elation. I still can't do this. There it is. Ink of Elation. It is in the shade Cream Soda. They have these amazing liquid lipsticks. This is kind of a pale, kind of pink lavender. I really like it. I have a hard time wearing these shades, but this one really works well with my skin tone. It's a matte lipstick. It doesn't come off. It's comfortable. It looks good. But Ink of Elation will be a link below for you guys to check that out. Remember that every day is a new day to work on your mental health, your depression, your anxiety, and bettering yourself, giving yourself a healthier, more stable environment and lifestyle. And it's not going to be an easy journey. It's not. But you're going to have to demand that what you deserve. You got to demand how people need to treat you. And if at any point somebody shows you that they don't respect that and that's not important to them, just start cutting. Just cut them right out, just like that. Get some safety scissors because you don't want to hurt yourself, because this is about self-care, and you just cut them right out of your life and you don't think twice about it. And, you know, for me, I just make sure that I constantly do it from a place of self-care and love. You know, I love you. I wish we could have a good relationship. I would love to work towards a better, healthy relationship. But if you can't do that, I'm going to need you to take yourself and everything that you are and go somewhere else. And don't feel bad for it. Nope. No, no, no. Because these are the days that fill your week. You have a right to make them amazing, because you're amazing and you deserve nothing but the best. So until next week, I'm Emily Doll. This is another episode of Monday Coffee with the Doll. We got emotional, we got in our feels, and I love you and I hope you come back next week. So bye.